Broadcasting live from the Sandstep Citadel on the plain of Tarkir, this is Tap Tap Concede. We have 15 new lands now. I mean, and technically we could do the fetches too if we wanted.
You know what's great about the new cycle?
What's that?
Well, now that we're going to have big blocks twice a year instead of just once a year, think about how many more lands we'll have for TTC.
So many new places to be broadcasting from. It's fantastic.
Finally. Thanks, Wizards. That was literally the only reason you should have ever made that change.
Welcome, everybody, to Tap Tap Concede. My name is Graham.
I'm Kathleen.
And I'm Cameron.
And I'm James.
And James is sitting in Paul's production seat this week, if you're watching on video. But he's still going to be he's going to be a lot more talkative than Paul usually is, because we all literally just came back from our Cons of Tarkir pre-release.
It's 10:12. We got out of the pre-release at 10 p.m.
Yep. Usually
then we came here.
Because we do most of our filming on Saturdays. Usually we do the pre-release on Sunday, but a bunch of us are busy on Sunday, so we decided, all right, we'll haul buttock to film fast on Saturday and get there in time for the afternoon pre-release, because the way it works at our store is they fire one at 10 a.m. and then another one at 4 p.m.
And everybody was very motivated for some reason.
Yeah, weird how that was.
I certainly was.
So we're going to crack a pack. We're not going to roll the dice. We're going to crack a pack of Cons of Tarkir.
Woo!
Woo! And then we're going to tell you about our pre-releases and our decks. And we have... Do we have 4 different clans here?
We do.
Oh, fantastic. All right, so let's just pop right into this pack of Cons of Tarkir. Our first card is Wetland Sambar.
Is that the bear?
Nope.
It's Elmer.
It's the elk. Yeah.
But it's a 2/1.
It's Majestic Blue Elmer.
It's Elmer Piker.
Yeah, that's, I mean, sure, it's fine. It is in the set to trade with morphs, I think, or threaten to trade with morphs.
Yeah.
So, sure, fine. Valley Dasher is the 2/2 for 1 and a red. It's a human berserker with haste, but it has to attack every turn. Attacks each turn of Fable.
I think the only time I saw that was in Mardu decks, and they were like, whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't you just do like Monastery Swift Spear into Valley Dasher?
Yeah, and then just jam. Just keep attacking. The nice thing is, this guy, he's really good at bluffing combat tricks. Because you're like, well, I have to attack with him. So you attack, and they're like, all right, fine, I block him. And you're like, ha, I get you. Combat trick.
They're like, I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, because ordinarily it's like, why is he attacking? He wouldn't attack. He just loses creature. Oh, this guy has to attack. Oh, okay, whatever, I'll block. Ha, get you. He's fine, I guess. Speaking of fine, I guess, Firehoof Cavalry. It's a 1/1 for a single white.
Okay.
And for 3 and a red, Firehoof Cavalry gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn.
Oh, I can think of so many better things to do with 3 mana or 4 mana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually like, I was not super into this guy when I thought that activated ability only cost 3, and then during the limited resources review, I was like, it's 3. It's 4. It's 3 and a red. It's 4 mana. Oy.
No, you trust me. Trust me, you have better things to do with 4 mana than give something +2/+0.
This guy's fun. I had one of these guys. Mardu Skull Hunter.
Yep.
He's a 2/1 human warrior relevant for 1 and a black. He enters the battlefield tapped, womp womp. But if you have triggered raid, when he enters the battlefield, target opponent discards a card. So
yeah.
Got some stuff off that.
Okay. What do you discard in this set?
Right.
In a lot of other sets, it's you pitch a land.
Yeah.
But here, if you're going 4 colors,
you
3 colors.
need all your land.
I would usually just pitch the creature I was furthest away from casting.
Probably, yeah. I mean, maybe it helps you delve. Maybe. Raid, of course. By the way, just as a reminder, is the it's the reminder text thing that it says that this card will do something if you have attacked this turn. I'm sure you guys went into this in the last episode when you were talking about the early impressions, but it doesn't matter if the creature lives through combat or if it hits the player. It doesn't matter. It's just if you attacked at all. So that's fun. Okay, I had fun with this card today. Awaken the Bear. 2 and a green for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. It's a little weird that it's +3/+3 when it's awakening the bear.
Yeah. Wizards completely disrespecting the bear archetype.
It's a big bear.
It's a big bear, but they have 4/4 bears.
Yeah,
they also have 4/2 bears.
But by the standards of Tarkir, it's a medium bear.
So this is Awaken the average bear.
Awaken the bear, I guess.
Bear.
This is one of the common gold cards, the Abomination of Gudul.
Oh, I like this card.
It's a 3 black, green, blue for a 3/4 with flying. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card, and if you do, discard a card. So you get to loot when you deal damage to a player. And it's part of a cycle of 6 mana common creatures that have morph, and you can turn them up for paying 2, and in this case, black, green, blue.
So they're slightly cheaper.
They're 3 and their clan to hardcast, or 2 and their clan to...
I will talk about that because I was running one in my deck, but I'll just say I like that card, and it had some really good uses.
All right. Singing Bell Strike.
That card is also good.
Yes, very good.
1 and a blue for a creature enchantment aura. When Singing Bell Strike enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature, which is a clause often missing from cards like this.
Yes.
Enchanted creature does not untap during its controller's untap step, but you can pay 6 to untap the creature.
I saw somebody do that once, and it was completely irrelevant.
Yeah. Though it's easy to get surprised by that. It's the sort of thing like Oppressive Raise in M15 when you're like, oh, it's not doing anything, so whatever, attack.
Well, you know what, though?
And then one turn they leave the mana up, and you're like, attack, and they go, okay, pay, block, and you're like, oh, right, you can pay for that.
Honestly, though, it's twice as the price of Oppressive Raise, and it's more than twice as good, though, because 6 mana is too much for most creatures.
Yeah. Hey, Dismal Backwater. It's one of the so-called refuge lands, because there was a cycle in Zendikar that was dual lands that entered the battlefield tapped and gained you 1 life. I don't know how many you guys had in your decks. Did you find that 1 life could actually be kind of relevant?
Sometimes, but not.
Like I had 2 of these. I saw some people with 3, even 4, and it kind of added up.
I mean, it added up, but I had 2, and most of the people I saw had 2, and so they would go up to like 21 or 22 because people would play them pretty much immediately if they had them in their opening hands, and then you basically gave them 1 more turn of being hit by a morph. It didn't really seem to make a lot of difference.
Like, it takes the edge off being shields down for that 1 extra turn, right?
Yes, that's true, because you don't get to play your 2-drop maybe.
Anyway, these are all of these are good. All the dual lands are necessary.
Yes.
Bloodfire Mentor is next. It's 2 and a red for a 0/5 Ifrit Shaman, and it lets you loot for the cost of 2 and a blue and tap. You can draw a card and then discard a card.
Sad face.
He's okay.
I found him to be not bad, but sealed is slower than draft, so I don't know.
Hey, we found the unplayable. Lens of Clarity.
Ugh.
It's an artifact for a single mana. You may look at the top card of your library and at face-down creatures you don't control.
No.
That is not worth a card in your deck. Never, ever play that. Stubborn Denial is a single blue for an instant. Counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. With Ferocious, which is if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you just counter the spell.
I had one. I didn't run it.
It seems okay.
Seems okay.
Well, how many creatures did you have with power 4 or greater?
Lots.
Oh, really? I might have run this.
Yeah,
Just a hard counter for a single blue?
A conditional hard counter for a single blue. I think when we go through my other spells, you'll see why that didn't make the cut.
Fair enough. Become Immense. I'm just going to go on record and say this is a terrible name for a Magic card. Apologies to anyone from Wizards who might be listening, but this is really lame.
It's silly.
I'm such a fan of the Wizards creative team, and this is like someone phoned this in or forgot to change it, and they're like, "Oh, we printed that? Oh, I was going to change that." Anyway, Become Immense. 5 and a green. Target creature gets +6/+6 until end of turn, but it has Delve, so you can be like, "Hey, guess what? Surprise!" This card's really good. I think. I don't think.
It's an instant.
I don't think it's amazing. Oh yeah, sorry, it's an instant. I don't think it's like woo amazing, but I think it's very strong.
You have to be very careful because it's out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Better than those that Dismal Backwater we looked at earlier is the Tri-lands, so-called Tri-lands.
Oh, they're so good.
This is the Nomad Outpost, the Mardu land, which enters the battlefield tapped. You don't gain a life, but you can tap to add red, white, or black to your mana pool.
Honestly, if you see one of these goes by and you are in 2 of those colors, just get it.
Yeah, the thing is, if you're in 2 of the colors, it's just it's like Guildgate from Ravnica. Enters taps for either color. It's great, and maybe you get to splash something for free. And our rare, we have a plains and a snake token, by the way. Our rare is Mardu Ascendancy. Ooh. Did anyone see this today?
No.
It's very strong.
I saw it in an opponent's deck, but they didn't get a chance to cast it.
It's an enchantment. It casts for Mardu, which is red, white, and black. 3 mana. Whenever a non-token creature you control attacks, put a 1/1 red goblin creature token onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. If that was it, that would be really, really good. But then randomly, you can also sacrifice it to make creatures you control get +0/+3 until end of turn, which is sort of interesting. I guess it makes them not trade.
Yeah.
That seems very good. I like that. Maybe, well, actually, James.
Sir.
You were Mardu, correct?
Mardu.
How did your deck go?
My deck, are we going to pick a card out of this pack?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jeez, Graham. We got first pick this.
So, I mean, obviously, like, we don't really have much experience drafting the set.
I'd take the Outpost.
You take the Outpost,
Yeah.
the Mardu Outpost? But if you're taking the Mardu Outpost,
no.
wouldn't you just
Yeah,
take the Mardu Ascendancy?
Okay, maybe I wouldn't. Let me look through this
So
pack again.
I feel like there's a couple different ways you can draft the set. You can, like, try and stick with 1 or 2 colors and try to maybe sort of keep open and see what sort of thing is flowing. Or, honestly, what I would do here, take Mardu Ascendancy and just hard force Mardu. Just be like, everyone out of my way.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I am curious to see how best to draft this set.
How viable that is?
Yeah, well, yeah, because like how badly can you get punished if you pack one, pick one, that the Ascendancy, right? Like,
Well, I don't think passing the Outpost is any sort of Mardu signal.
no, I don't think so either.
I think I actually take the Become Immense.
Really?
The Become
Yeah.
Immense?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean,
It leaves me open.
look, I'm just going to take the Mardu thing and force it. But that's early on, right? So maybe get back to me in 4 weeks and I'll let you know how I feel.
Cam?
You just take the rare and draft, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All 3 packs. Doesn't matter if they're on color or not.
Yep.
Yep.
Value.
Value.
All right.
So, Mr. Mardu.
All right. So I chose Mardu. I chose Mardu mainly because I like at pre-releases either winning quickly or dying quickly.
You go for the aggro strategy.
It's very hot in that room. I like to get in and out as quickly as possible.
Well, this place has air conditioning, which is nice.
It's a lot better.
There's
yeah.
still like 80 people at that pre-release.
Yeah, it still gets warm. But regardless, so I chose Mardu, and I was not let down. I really like my deck a lot, actually. I mean, I'm an attacking kind of player, so it made sense for me to try this. I don't really like getting in long, grindy, stalematey games. That being said, I saw my fair share of them.
What?
Regardless of whether I was playing Mardu or not.
What rare did you get in your seeded pack?
In my seeded pack, I am just trying to remember now.
Because it seems like they were either like triple color in your clan, or they had your clan's mechanic.
So the rare I got was Butcher of the Horde.
Oh god!
So Butcher of the Horde
Must be nice.
Yeah. So this card is pretty insane. It's one and then one Mardu, and I'll bring it up here in just a moment. This card is nuts. So 5/4 for 4, flying, and then you can sacrifice another creature to give it either Vigilance, Lifelink, or Haste until end of turn. I had the Hordeling Outburst, which makes 3 1/1
Very
goblins,
nice.
and I had 2 Ponyback brigades.
You 2 of them?
Yeah, so I had ways of making a lot of goblins and hence a lot of fodder.
So
for my Butcher of the Horde,
the Ponyback Brigade is it's the other one I was talking about in the common cycle. It's 3 and Mardu for a 2/2 Goblin Warrior that brings 3 1/1s with it.
Yeah.
Or you can cast it as a morph card and flip it up for 2 and Mardu.
It's common. Like, God, this card is so freaking good, and it was absolutely an all-star.
Oh, yeah.
All day long. So that was pretty sweet. And then ended up getting Zergo Hell Smasher.
What?
Helm's Masher, sorry.
Oh my
Dear
god!
Just
God.
in one of my packs, which was
He's a
pretty
mythic,
sweet.
isn't he?
Yeah.
He is.
Sweet.
I got him too, and I couldn't run him.
So
Yeah.
wasn't too bad having him there. That being said, he did almost very little on account of either I never drew him, or when I did draw him, he was I can't remember the name of the 1 and white Oblivion Ring, essentially.
Suspension Field.
Thank you. So both games he got hit with Suspension Field in my last round.
You've been suspended.
And one other game he got countered with the blue morph. That when you morph it for 4 and 2 blue, you counter target spell.
That's a thing?
And you exile it.
Is that a rare?
Yes. You exile it, and you may cast it as long as and the person who countered it may cast it anytime that he or she could. While
Is this a spellcatcher?
Yeah.
That sounds like a really good card. I wasn't aware of that card.
This card
it's a Sultai.
Completely insane.
It's the Marrow spellcatcher or something like that.
Oh, it's a merfolk? Great.
No, it's a Naga.
It's a Naga wizard. So it's 3 and a blue for a 3/3. Or you can morph it, and when you morph it for 4 and blue, this is exactly what it says. When Keru Spell Snatcher is turned face up, counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost for as long as it remains exiled.
Excuse me?
Yeah, this card is completely insane.
So you're like, I cast Zergo, they go, well, no. And then on my turn, I cast Zergo for free.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that was bad beats.
Why are you hurting yourself, James?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty sweet. Another card that I really like in Mardu is Chief of the Edge.
Oh, yeah. Both chiefs are very good, but Chief of the Edge and Mardu seems very good.
This card is insane. Other warrior creatures you control get +1/+0, and she herself, I believe, is a 3/2 for a single black and white. So that card was insane, especially when it came down on curve.
Ugh.
Like when I was able to go like Ruthless Ripper, which was my single 1-drop, which is the 1/1 Death Touch that also has morph, but I never morphed it because I just love 1/1s for 1 with Death Touch.
Relentless Rats are
it just holds it holds everything off, and it's super awesome. So
were you able to get the Chief of the Edge into Mardu Horde Chief?
No.
So the Horde Chief is I really wanted some for my Abzan deck. It's a 2/3 for 3, which is fine, but it's a warrior. And if you've triggered Raid, it comes into play with a 1/1 warrior.
Yeah,
and makes it if you have the Chief out, it's a 2/3. Sorry, it's a 3/3 and a 2/1.
And
for 3 mana.
And I should point out that I had 2 Mardu Horde Chiefs. in my deck,
but you never got.
But never really made that work.
It's so much fun.
Kill Shot, awesome, right?
Yeah, I did not play around Kill Shot.
I learned to play around Kill Shot very quickly.
Yeah, I was taught that. Real quick in round 1.
Me too.
So that was pretty devastating a couple times. High Sentinels of Erashin.
Yeah,
that card is completely bonkers.
High Sentinels of Erashin is not a fair card.
No.
So the Sentinels, because I had one in my deck as well. They're a 3/4. They're rare, thank goodness. They're a 3/4 for 3 and a white. Bird Soldier. Yeah. They have flying because they're bird soldiers.
Caw.
They get +1/+1 for each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it.
Caw.
Okay, that's like, all right, sure. If you're in like Abzan, you can get like Outlast, get some counters on stuff. All right, that's pretty sweet. Distribute some stuff. Maybe you're in Temur and you have like the card distribution stuff. Or it has another ability, which is for 3 and a white, you can just put a counter on a creature.
Yep.
Any creature.
Yep.
So you're like, I attack with this guy, and I have 8 mana, and they're like, oh, I guess I block. I take it. All right, activate this twice. You take like 4 more damage now. It's really gross.
The maddest of rubbins I saw today, which was happening next to me, was guy attacked with his High Sentinels. Dude was at 4, and he pumped it, and instead of putting the +1/+1, oh yeah, this doesn't work. Yeah, that's right. This is what he tried to do, and he got blown out. He tried to. I think he tried to get kind of cheeky and put the +1/+1 counter on one of his creatures, as kind of like a ha ha ha. And then the other guy was like, "It's creatures you control, dude." And he's like, "Oh." He still won, but it was pretty funny. He had the attack there. He was just being kind of jerky.
Real quick, just because we glossed over it, and it is a card that you should be aware of. Kill Shot is only 3 mana.
Yes,
to destroy target attacking creature.
Yep, and it's a common.
Yeah.
So really,
two and a white.
Really quickly, a lot of Abzan decks that were running that.
Yeah. So really quickly, I had a Mardu Skull Hunter. That's the 2/1 that enters tapped, and if you trigger raid, you discard a card.
Yep.
He was fine. Didn't really do anything amazing, but he was sweet.
I don't know. I think people are kind of priced into keeping awkward hands in this format, and making them discard out of that is never fun.
Yeah, like the 2 times
Despise, I was like,
unfortunately,
Despise.
the two times I triggered raid on this guy, they only had 1 card left in hand, and it was kind of late in the game, so I didn't really get much value there. Sultai Scavenger, it's a 5 and a black for a 3/3 flyer with Delve. This card was very good. I will tell you one very quick story. Yeah. In one game, I kept a 1-lander, managed to play out my Ruthless Ripper on turn 1, and then go not mana, not mana, not mana for 3 turns in a row. So I had to discard, which only just helped fuel the bin for my Sultai Scavenger, who I eventually did get down for 3 and then stabilize, and I won the game. So...
Did you just do a manaless dredge play?
Essentially, I did a 1 mana dredge. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Don't do as James does.
That honestly, that 3/3 flyer seems very good. I have one in my deck as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely play that.
Debilitating Injury, 1 and a black for a enchantment aura. Creature gets -2/-2. It's a terrible. What's it called?
Stab wound.
Yeah. No, not stab wound.
It's a worse stab wound.
Dead weight?
Dead weight, yeah.
Yeah.
A much worse dead weight. But
I had one of those in my board, and I brought it in against a very heavy morph Jeskai deck.
Yeah, I mean...
didn't have bigger stuff.
I don't know. I almost feel like until somebody tells me otherwise, I'm always going to just play one of these if I have them with all the morph creatures running around.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So I just did it. Another standout card, Rush of Battle. This card is sort of situational. 3 and a white for a sorcery. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. Warrior creatures you control gain lifelink.
Yeah, the situation is you have warriors.
Yeah, you have warriors.
It's not that bad of a situation.
No, it's not. And I had 8 or 9 warriors in my deck, so it was like a no-brainer.
I'll tell you a story about Rush of Battle later.
I'm going to run this card. Timely Hordemate. This card is very good.
Oh, man, I love Timely Hordemate.
I kind of wish I had a few more 2-drops because it reads for 3 and a white, you get a 3/2, and if it triggers raid, you get to return a card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield.
I love the idea of
good.
Oh, I attack with my 2-drop, and they're like, okay, I trade with my morph or whatever. And then you're like, cool, play this guy, get my guy back to the battlefield. What?
Yeah.
You have to say that.
You guys talked very quickly about the Valley Dasher in the Crack-a-Pack. It was okay.
It's okay.
It's a 2/2 for 2.
Dies quickly.
That almost always dies very quickly. Mardu Warshrieker. 3 and a red for a 3/3 with raid. If it triggers, you get to add Mardu to your mana, which is pretty sick.
Yes.
This card is very good.
Did you do the thing where you have, I guess, 5 mana and you go 4-drop?
Yeah, the times I felt really good was when I triggered raid, went Warshrieker into Horde Chief. And just got 3 creatures on the board, which always felt very good.
You monster.
Hey, James, what's the mana cost on the Warshrieker?
Warshrieker is 3 and a red.
Yeah.
See, and what is nice, it's fixing, too.
It is kind of, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Trumpet Blast. I'm going to have a Trumpet Blast in my deck if I can make 9 goblins.
Well, yeah, if you've got 2 Ponyback Brigades and what's the other? The Horde, whatever it is, the one that makes 3 goblins?
Yeah, the Hordling Outburst. Yeah.
Yeah, you're running Trumpet
You're playing
Blast.
the Trumpet Blast. And it's foil for the beats. And then...
It deals foil damage.
Yeah, exactly. The last 2 cards in my deck, and I only mentioned them last because the only reason I went 4-1 in this event today was because this card was on the top of my deck, which was Aerostorm.
That card is good.
Aerostorm is very good. So
I will also talk about that card.
Yeah, I'll bring it up here. It's
3 red.
It's 3 red for a sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature or player.
Oh, okay.
And if raid is triggered, it deals 5 damage, and it cannot be prevented.
Neat. No, it's very good.
It was.
Yeah.
James, how did you use it? I mostly used it as a finisher. After a big swingy attack, I'd get them down below 5 and then just nope.
Like a lava axe?
It was a lava axe for me in the last game of the last match to win me it. Every other time it was a removal spell for me at least.
Oh,
it killed the 4/4 that 4/4 lifelink guy and a bunch of dudes. It killed the 0/5 wall. It was an all-star. This card easily gave me the record that I have.
And then what was the other one? The other card you had left?
I had 2 of those.
Oh, I see.
And that was a last-minute decision. I almost only ran one, and I'm so happy I ran both because I really, really liked it.
I give it an A+.
So that was my Mardu deck. I ended up 4-1. The only match I lost was I didn't even get to really play the game of Magic. It was more draw a bunch of lands. But every single game was entertaining. Every single game had a lot of really interesting decision points.
I found that too.
I've definitely, I don't think since we've come back to the game, I've played Magic quite like we're going to be playing Magic for the next year.
I think it's pretty stoked.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I will let you guys talk now.
Do we still know how the draft format is working once the other sets come out?
No,
because they said there's something weird about it, right?
No, they haven't. I don't think they've announced what the weird.
Interesting.
The weird.
I'm curious. Cam, Kathleen.
How about I go next? Because I have some cards that share with James. So my deck, I went Temur, and I went completely Temur, except I did splash for an Abomination of Gudul because I had I had an Opulent Palace and Bloodfell Caves and Dismal Backwater.
So it was free, basically
a free splash. It was literally the only black card I splashed for. I went 4 and then split in the last round because I really wanted the packs. But then in the exhibition game, I won the matches, so maybe I could have gone undefeated. But I feel that my opponent was scooping too soon.
Your record is undefeated as well.
My record is undefeated.
Good job.
My deck, I don't think, if you look at it, I'll post a picture on Twitter. It doesn't actually look anything special. I didn't get, a lot of bomby rares or anything like that. I don't have, any, the crazy lords or anything like that. But what I do have is it's a very solid...
It's consistent.
It's a consistent, solid mid-range deck. So basically, I would usually go down to about maybe 11 life. I went as low as 7 and won a game once, but then I would just start stabilizing with bigger, fatter creatures that could fly, and then removal, and then fighting, and then just basically alpha strike in. A card that won me a lot of games, though, was I think I only ran 2 of the rares I pulled. My promo rare was the 2 mana enchantment that lets you get a land when you play a morph creature.
Oh yeah, that was your promo rare.
Yeah, I didn't play that. I had one of those in
my sideboard.
I didn't play that because I was I'm not playing a card that doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it was I don't remember the name. Trail of Mystery.
Yes.
Which is 1 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a face-down creature enters the battlefield under your control, so whenever you play a creature as a morph, you can search your library for a land, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle.
No.
And then whenever a permanent you control is turned face up, if it's a creature, which it usually is, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
That's way too slow.
I'm so going deep with this card at some point.
I mean, I'm sure you could,
just draft a bunch of...
draft? Sure.
Yeah. Just draft a bunch of lands and a bunch of morph creatures.
But yeah, you actually could. You could play literally all your morph cards and then just a wall of basics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
How many morph creatures do you even have, though?
1. 2. Sorry, I'm just counting. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I had 7.
Yeah, but those last 5 are all really expensive.
Yeah. So
I don't. Yeah. So you didn't run that.
Okay, so I didn't run that. But anyhow, so what did I run? I ran a Temur deck, and I'd say there's a few all-stars, but one of them was Jeering Instigator.
Oh yeah.
Which it's a 2/1, but it's got morph. And when it's turned face up, if it's your turn, you gain control of another target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste. People did not see that coming. I tell you what.
You get a free active treason, not free, but you get an active treason on a creature.
Usually arranged in such a way that I could swing for lethal.
Yes, exactly. Because he's also attacking.
Yes, he's also attacking. You also get a little bonus 2/2 going in there. That was really good.
Real quick flavor note: if you look at the art,
he has Sidisi's hat.
Stolen Sidisi's hat. Yoink.
So, but then my other 2-drop slot, I had the Horde Ambusher, which was fine. It's a morph when you turn it face up. You can get a falter effect, which was very useful.
Means a creature can't block that turn.
But you know what he was better for? People, after seeing that I had a Jeering Instigator and a bunch of 5-drops, would then go to kill my morphs early, and then they would kill that, and I was like, ha ha. Because it's fine, but not amazing. And I had an Heir of the Wilds, which was really good.
That guy's really annoying to play against.
And don't forget to read the Ferocious text.
So he's a bear with Death Touch, which is already great. He's a 2/2 for 1 and a green with Death Touch.
Oh man, does he ever just attack through with impunity?
Yeah. And then if you have Ferocious, which is to say if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, when he attacks, he's a 3/3, which is really hard to block.
I mean, eventually people would end up trading him off, but he usually got in for like 6 damage before people would be willing to bite the bullet and like lose a morph or something to him.
What's that super awesome card in your 3-drop spell slot there?
Oh, my super awesome card in my 3-drop spell slot?
The one that's 2 colors.
Oh, this was also an all-star. Winterflame. Choose one or both. Tap target creature. Winterflame deals 2 damage to target creature. I wasn't too concerned.
Choose one or both, you say?
Yes, choose one or both.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't too concerned about waiting till I could get max value and get both, because dealing 2 damage to target creature at instant speed was really useful later in the game when they play a morph, because usually that's a bigger one.
Yep.
I've noticed.
I like that you're running 2 Summit Prowlers.
Yeah, because they trigger Ferocious.
Yeah,
they're
they
4/3.
They're the Borderland Minotaur kind of functional.
Honestly, they were absolutely fine. And what I think actually worked in my favor with my deck is none of my creatures. Like I think I had a solid pool of uncommons and not really, and like decent commons. I mean, other people who looked at my sideboard were like, "Yeah, you literally have the best deck you could have out of this. Like, there's nothing that I would substitute." So my creatures didn't look amazing, so people didn't want to like use removal on them because I think they were waiting for something bigger, and then nothing bigger came. So anyhow. Going through the creatures again, I had the Tuskguard Captain, which is 2/3, which is just really good because it blocks morphs.
Yep.
Blocks them all day, and then it has an Outlast, which I almost never used. I would just trade it off. I had an Alpine Grizzly, which was also really good. 4/2 for 3 is great. I had a Bloodfire Mentor, which I don't think I would have been running if I had something better, but it was on color, and it was easy to cast, and the looting actually came in handy once when I was flooding out. I got to pitch shit at the end of my opponent's turn and sort of draw myself out of trouble. I had a Longshot Squad, which was really good.
They're the ones that
get reach if they get a counter.
With Outlast. Yeah, no, it's all creatures with +1/+1 counters have reach as a static ability.
Yes.
So if you have your Tuskguard Captain with a counter, it has reach, even if the Longshot Squad does not.
This wasn't a huge deal to me, but 3/3s are good. They're good. That 3 toughness is very relevant in this format. Summit Prowler, we've discussed, was good. Filling out the sort of high end of my creature slots, I had a Snowhorn Rider, which was fine.
This is the Temur version of the common morph cycle.
Yeah. It's a 5/5 for 6 with trample, but you can play it as a morph and then flip it over for 5, and that's
always scary.
3 and 1 of each Temur color.
Like,
3 Temur.
I attack with this 2/2. Okay, I block. Cool. It's a 5/5 trample now. Deal with it.
My only other on-color rare was an Avalanche Tusker, which let me tell you,
pretty good.
Either like completely like just mowed through their defenses one at a time. They like throw that little weenie flyer under the bus, throw that little weenie flyer under the bus, or immediately drew removal, and that's fine. It did its job either way.
So real quick, though, to explain what it is.
Oh, yes. It's a 6/4. I mean, it's on the screen, but if you're listening, it's a 6/4 Elephant Warrior, and whenever he attacks, target creature defending player controls blocks this combat if able.
For 2 green, blue, red.
Yeah.
So
very powerful.
This doesn't prevent them from being like, okay, well, if this guy has to block it, I'm also going to block with this other creature and double block.
Yes.
It doesn't prevent that from happening, but it does mean that you can be like, that creature definitely dying.
Yes, which was helpful. I had a Sagu Archer, which was a 2/5 with reach, which was actually the 2 toughnesses or 2 power is pretty relevant. It's morph. And you can hard cast it for 5, or you can morph it for 3 and then 5. I never morph this card out. I always just hard cast it for 5.
I think the idea, because it's the only one that the morph is the same cost. I think the idea is that the advantage you're getting there is that it's a surprise to like ambush a flyer, but
honestly, flyers come out late in this format. There's not a lot of flyers. They tend to be more expensive or harder to cast, and so by the time
they also typically have more than 2 toughness.
Yeah,
you're gonna like.
But the 5.
What's the 2/1 Jeskai one, Cam?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay. All right.
I've got a bunch of them.
Whatever it's called.
The Jeskai Wind Scout.
Yeah, the Wind Scout would get it, but
yeah, I mean, it blocked, and I just never morphed it because it wasn't worth my time. I had a Pine Walker, which was a 5/5 for 5. With a morph for 5 as well. That's also, but it's easier to cast.
Because it's the hard cast for 3 green. The morph for 4 and a green.
That was okay. Now, I mean, like I cast that thing like once, but cards that did work. Abomination of Gudul, honestly, very good. 3/4 It didn't have a lot of synergy in my deck because it doesn't trigger Ferocious, but there's not a lot of flyers in this set, to be completely honest with you. 4 toughness made it so it could attack through some other flyers that you see, and the looting was really good. It's like I need to draw a little bit more gas because I'm up against an attacky deck, but the decks that tend to attack more ferociously and faster tend to be like Mardu and Abzan. They didn't have a lot of flyers, so I could usually punch through with this, pitch a land, get something relevant, pitch a basic, basically. A basic land was essentially what I did, and I really like that card. It's a 3/4 for 5, and then you can for 6, and then you can morph it for 5. And then this card is a freaking all-star, and I would honestly consider first picking this if we had opened it in our pack, which is River Wheel Aerialists.
I was curious about how this card would do.
This card is great, and I will tell you why. It is easy to cast.
Only 5 and a blue.
Well, the thing is, it's not...
It's a single color of mana.
It's a single color of mana, so it's easy to resolve. 4/5 flying, which is big.
That sounds really good.
It blocks a lot of stuff. It is a big, meaty wall, and it has prowess. And so by the time you resolve this, the next turn you're probably going to be doing combat stuff, and then it's probably like a 5/6. Or my favorite thing was to use Savage Punch with it, and then make it into a 7/8.
So hang on, Savage Punch. Savage Punch is 1 and a green. Sorcery, target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. But if you trigger Ferocious, which that does by itself, then the creature gets +2/+2.
And then it's got prowess.
So you're making it a 6/7, but then it has prowess, so it's as you say, a 7/8. You're killing something, and then you're smashing for 7 in the air.
Yeah, you're usually killing their like 3/3 flyer, and then you beat them for 7. It was really good.
That's really gross.
So those are my creatures, which, as you can see, are not splashy, but this is just a really good example of a mid-range deck, which is honestly my favorite kind of deck to play. And so my spells, this is why I wasn't running that counter spell. Savage Punch, as we discussed, very good. There's a Jeskai has basically the same effect, that it's in red, but it's 3 in a red. And the creature gets +0/+1.
No, +1/+0.
Right. +1/+0.
It does not bump toughness, which I think it's called Swift Kick, and I think it's bad. I think Swift Kick is really bad.
I did not run it. I think it is a worse version of this card. Singing Bell Strike, which, as we've discussed, is very good. I would actually usually deploy this early, and so it's basically a pacifism. Because if you throw it on a 3-drop, people are not going to pay 6 to untap it.
No.
They're just like, I will move on with my life. Like, if you had to put it on a bomb, but I would just like blow it off early and get it out of the way. Get it out of the way. Winter Flame we discussed. Crippling Chill is really good. It instant speed, so when they go to attacks, or maybe on your turn if you really want, if you just want to punch through, or before you flip your Jeering Instigator over. So tap this guy, take your only untapped guy, punch you with it. Tap target creature. Doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. And draw a card. So good. I love it. Barrage of Boulders was actually really good because there's a lot of X1s in this format. Deals 1 damage to each creature you don't control. But more importantly, Ferocious. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, creatures can't block this turn.
Now, are you running that for the damage or for the falter effect?
For the falter effect.
Okay, because I'm thinking, and there's not a huge amount of 1 toughness creatures in this format. Certainly not that many that are relevant. Like, maybe if you're going up against James's crazy goblin horde, then you're pretty happy about it. But you must be running that for the, like, oh, nothing can block, you die.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's really good. And also, even if you don't get off the nothing can block, I had like a couple people who, like, I ran it, like, it was really good when I had like the 1/1 Death Toucher. I would just like kill that outright, and then everything else had 1 damage on. They had to think really hard if they were going to make their trades.
And you talked about Aerostorm, but what's your last?
My last card is Burn Away, which is deal 6 damage to target creature, and when that creature dies, exile all cards from its controller's graveyard.
Okay, so the 6 damage is sweet.
The 6 damage kills pretty much, not everything, but very close to everything.
There's a big mammoth.
Yeah, there's a big 6/7 mammoth. Did you ever, like,
get someone who was, like, trying to delve something?
No, I was not. There was very few Sultai players.
Nobody was playing Sultai, so...
But anyhow, that's my deck. So I went 4-0. Usually I would win in 2 games, just because...
That deck seems sweet.
Yeah, it's, like I said, nothing special but mid-ragey, and and I was very happy with it. It's one of the best pre-release decks I've ever done.
Cam,
All right.
How fared the Wurtang clan?
I don't want to talk about it.
Creep up on that.
All right, then moving on. Graham.
No, I went 2 and 3. I need a very special reminder not to keep bad hands that have like 2 colors of mana in them, and then a handful of like good spells that require that missing color. Like very, very remedial stuff.
Definitely lost a couple games today where I was on black and white mana, and I had 4 green cards in hand.
Yeah.
And you really got to make sure that you can cast them spells.
You're not going to draw into that color. I'm going to tell you right now. You might have 8 sources. You are not going to draw into that color in the relevant 3 turns.
Exactly. You will draw into it on the 4th turn when you are already fucked. Threw, like, when I was... sorry about this, when I was playing, I was very aggressive with mulliganing because I knew I wanted to be able to cast... And I threw away a lot of 2 mana hands that would have been amazing because they were, like, completely on curve. But they also required me to pick up, like... 2 other colors of mana, and I was like, no, I would much rather keep a 4-land hand with like 2 spells and a creature, because whatever I drew I could play, and like I'm fine with going down to like 9 life and then getting you, right?
That was 5 rounds, which means between 10 and 15 games. Ask me how many hands of 7 I kept.
How many hands of 7 did you keep?
3. I mulliganed almost every time, and it was always the right decision. Do not be afraid to mulligan in this format.
Oh my god, yes. It is so important to have your mana, because otherwise the cards will just sit in your hand like a lump of lead and you will die. Because it's not that your opponent will come out of the gate swinging, it's that they will start putting out creatures on turn 3, and then on turn 4, and then on turn 5, and then by the time you finally get something, then they play the removal or whatever that's been sitting in their hand.
And you feel like trash, but I went to 5 twice in those mulligans, and I won the games I went to 5. Because you need to sometimes. So what's your deck like, Cam?
What
was your on-clan rare?
My on-clan rare was Flying Crane Technique.
Oh, sick!
Which lost me every game I played it in.
What?
Because both times I resolved it, my opponent quickly looked through their hand, looked surprised at themselves, and resolved Windstorm.
I don't think you should be main decking Windstorm.
No, I don't either. really
honestly, for you watching at home, that's a sideboard card. That's you bring in if they have like 3 flyers, maybe 2 if they're really problematic for you. So you were like, attack, Flying Crane Technique, and they're like, oh, they're flying now?
Yeah.
That's upsetting.
Yeah, seriously, kids, there's not enough flyers in this format.
Look what you've done to this man.
It was
to justify that as a main deck.
It was hot and it was loose. Yeah, so Flying Crane Technique, I feel in theory is playable.
I got rocked by it one game.
But I wound up getting 5 for 1, 4 for 1. So that felt real bad. However, I will corroborate Kathleen's research that shows that Singing Bell Strike, Crippling Chill, and Winter Flame are all really good cards. The other all-star performers for me were actually the Jeskai Wind Scout and the Monastery Swift Spear, because in a format where people will usually spend the first 2 to 3 turns playing out tapped lands, the Swift Spear can crack in for a surprising amount of damage early on.
That's the 1/2 with haste?
Yeah, 1/2 with haste.
And
you
with
would think
prowess.
you would think that with the tap lands coming in, the refuge cycle coming in, that they would just kind of tank her damage until she became irrelevant. But as it turns out, no, they don't. So any game where I resolved her turn 1, I generally wound up winning, unless I capped it off with Flying Crane Technique. I'm going to be bitter for a while. The only other rare I had was, if you ignore the Bloodstained Mire, which I was playing for,
For swag.
Yeah, for swag, was End Hostilities, which actually did win me a game because I was getting brutally ground out by another Jeskai player's Abzan splash, and all my creatures were dead, and he had like 8 creatures on the board, and he was just growing them, and they were sitting over there. He was playing Basecraft.
Siegecraft?
Yeah, basically. Not Siegecraft, just, when you play StarCraft and your opponent is just building a base.
Right. They're just like, yeah, you do that. I'm just building up a wall of creatures with toughness over here.
Top deck the second planes and was like, end hostilities and fought back and then wound up losing the match. But
hostilities is, it's 3 white?
Yes, 3 white, destroy all creatures and all permanents attached to those creatures.
Ooh. So gets equipment too.
Yeah,
which
so
is
it'll
barely
hit
irrelevant.
For those of you who care about Batterskull.
Yeah.
It's not in this format.
It'll get rid of GT.
Also not in this format.
It's okay. Let Cam have this.
Yeah. But no, overall, I found my deck just resolved a couple of early creatures and then tied down my opponent's boards with Singing Bell Strikes and Crippling Chills and Winter Flames, and just kind of got there eventually. I was really skeptical of Prowess at first because, hey, every card is now just as good as Blister Coil Weird, and that was a relevant card in every format that it's been printed in. But no, as it turns out, 4 to 5 Blister Coil Weirds can actually get there.
Yeah, like I obviously I had like one card with Prowess, and it wasn't anything I was ever going to count on, but it was a nice little bonus when you're already doing something shitty to your opponent that you got to be a little shittier.
So like I was running 10 pieces of removal, I think, with
I'm a hateful person.
A Force Away, 2 Singing Bell Strikes, 3 Crippling Chills, a Winter Flame, a Smite the Monstrous, Bring Low, Burn Away, and then the Mardu Heart Piercer.
Which one's Burn Away? Oh, right. Burn Away is the 6 damage one.
Yeah, the 6 damage.
Right. Bring Low is 3 and a red for 3 damage, or
if it has a +1/+1 counter on it, 5 damage.
Right. So that, by the way, because I was talking about Swift Kick, that's the same cost as Swift Kick. 3 and a red. Bring Low over Swift Kick.
Oh, also I had a Set Adrift. So I had like 13 pieces of removal and then some like little dudes.
So how awesome was the raid guy you were just talking about, the Mardu the Piercer?
Oh, he's real good.
Yeah.
3 toughness, blocks, makes morph creatures absolutely miserable. He blows up a morph creature
when he lands.
Yeah.
God, I wanted this card so badly in my deck. Like,
whenever he showed up, I was real happy.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted that card in my deck.
Speaking of cards I didn't get to play with, but I think are really sweet, Disdainful Stroke. Or as we like to call it, counter target spell you care about.
Yeah.
It's 1 and a blue, counter target spell with converted mana cost 4 or greater. How sweet was that for you?
Actually, it almost never did what I wanted it to do. I think once I got somebody's Mandrills when they blew out their entire graveyard on turn 3, and I was like, yes. And like he just...
Every time I saw it get cast today or at like the Community Cup, it's always been just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think my experience with it was that all the cards that I really wanted to counter were like 3-drops. Like in one game, I just wound up getting brutally soloed by that Temur, like green, red, blue, mana cost 4/4 Ogre.
Oh, the
that's really just a 6/6.
Oh, what's it called? James, what's that one called?
I really do
it's like
not
Knuckle
know.
Thrasher or something.
Yeah, that guy soloed me one game.
The Savage
Yeah.
Knuckle Thrasher. This ridiculous card.
Yeah. It's not a real card. What's it do?
Okay, so cast for green, blue, red for a 4/4.
That's already gross.
So calling bull on this already.
Yeah.
Then, if you would like to, for 2 and a green, you can give it +2/+2 until end of turn. You can only do that once a turn. So okay. That makes this card fair, I guess.
No.
2 and a blue, you can return it to the owner's hand.
In case they try to remove it, I
guess. You
guess.
can just pop it back if you want, because why not? And for 1 red, it gets haste. So with that one, it's like, okay, after this guy comes down...
That's Build a Bomb. That's what
this card is completely bonkers.
Yeah, so my experience... Like, there's going to be a standard deck with this card, I think. But
He's
like
also
my experience with it was like...
badass,
I had a hand with 4 mana.
Seems good.
Yeah, I had my monastery and a double land, and then two basics. And
Perfect.
then I remember I had Monastery Swift Spear, Singing Bell Strike, and Crippling Chill were my other cards. And I'm like, run it. We're going there. And like it went really good, and I was cracking in with Swift Spear, and then this thing came down on turn 3, and the only other card I had drawn at that point, or the only other spell I had drawn, because I was just this was the game where I top deck land all the time, was Disdainful Stroke.
And it was too late.
No,
it didn't hit any of those.
It doesn't hit anything. And this thing just like, I put Singing Bell Strike on it, and she bounced back to her hand, cast it again with haste the next turn, and then it killed my Swift Spear, and then like I Crippling Chilled it, and drew more land, and then it just like 6, 6, 6, 6. I'm bitter. I guess is what I'm saying. I feel that card
is a legitimate bomb, though.
Yeah. The Knuckle Thrasher?
Yeah. It is. Play that card.
Can I tell you
All right.
about a turn I had when my opponent resolved end hostilities?
Please.
So it was a very drawn-out game. This was a game 2. And we had sort of built up some boards, and then I got my Avalanche Tusker out, and I was sort of eating his dudes. And then I had my River Wheel Aerialists out, and the guy was like, all right, I am dead on board. He was down to 5. He had like relentlessly pounded me down to 7 life because he had an Abzan, sort of Abzan Jeskai deck thing going. He had some red in there basically for like this mantis, the red-white mantis.
Oh, the High Spire Mantis.
The High Spire Mantis, but it was mostly Abzan. And I was like, I'm effed. But eventually, I had eaten most of his dudes. And so he resolved end hostilities, and then I drew my Jeering Instigator, so I morphed it. I played it face down, and then he drew a land, and then I drew a land, and then he drew a land, and then I drew a land, and this went on.
As your morph is just
sitting there,
chipping away.
Well, then he plays the 2/3 Death Touch.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's 4, and you're at 5. And then I drew a land, and then the next turn, he was feeling pretty good about himself because he played the long shot squad. And then he passes it back to me, and I draw a Winter Flame, and I tap his Death Toucher, flip my Instigator, and get him.
Nice.
So I don't know why I told that story. I was just really happy with how that turned out.
All right, Graham.
All right.
Bring us home.
Patience.
I went Abzan. I want to start real quick by talking about my mana base for a couple of reasons. Notice what was, I think, starkly absent. That wasn't intended to be a pun. Noticeably absent from all 4 of our decks. Banners.
I was running one banner.
Oh, you did run a banner.
I did run a banner. I just had it pushed to the side when I went through my deck, but I was running one banner.
Because the rest of us, I mean, you only one. The rest of us didn't run any.
Nope.
And I saw a lot being cast, and I don't think they're that great of an idea. Sometimes you need them.
Yeah, I don't like, my colors are tempo. I don't want to be playing a mana rock on turn 3.
That's the problem, is that there's so much more. Because you have better things you want to be doing with your mana on turn 3, and I don't like. Yeah, you can pitch them late game to draw a card, but that costs you 6 mana to do that if you draw one late. I don't think they're that great.
No,
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway,
yeah, like minor improvement on Cluestone, still not that good.
So I was a total luck scrub, and I got a Windswept Heath and a Flooded Strand, which are 2 of the fetch lands. The Flooded Strand, I was running. It only went for plains because I was in Abzan, which of course is white, green, black. This one only went for plains, but minor deck thinning and also getting something in the bin for Delve, which was relevant. Getting the fetch lands in my bin for Delve was relevant. Windswept Heath, I could look for a plains or forest. I also had a Scoured Barrens for which was the white or black refuge land, and I had the Sand Steppe Citadel, which was the Abzan Triland. So that was fun. So my clan rare. This is kind of funny. I played against a couple other Abzan decks over the course of the day that both had the guild leader Anafenza, who's a 4/4 for 3 and does a bunch of other gross stuff. I did not get that, but I did have her Herald. The Herald of Anafenza was my rare. Single white mana for a 1/2 human soldier with Outlast, which is the weird Abzan mechanic that you pay, in this case, 2 and a white and tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on it, but you can only do this sorcery speed. So it's this weird sort of like, okay, I know I'm not going to be blocking with it, so I guess I'll just invest some mana in it and make it a bigger thing. But the Herald of Anafenza, whenever you activate it, you get a 1/1 white warrior. That ended up being relevant, and I'll tell you about that later once I tell you about the rest of my creatures. I had the Mardu Skull Hunter, which we talked about, the one that makes you discard. I had the Einok Bondkin, who is part of the sort of the token lord cycle, I guess. So the Einok Bondkin is a 2/1 for 1 and a white with Outlast for 1 and a white. And each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has first strike. So more often than not, my Herald of Anafenza was like a 3/4 with first strike.
Fighting against those was disgusting.
Yeah, it was really quite gross. I had a Watcher of the Roost, which is a 2/1 morph creature. It's a 2/1 flyer for 3, so it's a lot like the Jeskai Aven, except it's a morph creature and it's the free morph, meaning you can flip it by revealing a white card from your hand. You don't actually have to pay mana for it, and when it's turned face up, you gain 2 life, just sort of randomly gaining life there. I had the Mardu Hate Blade, which is a 1/1 for a single white, but you can pay a black to give it death touch. How
was that card?
He was fine. It never ever came up. Like no one ever gave me an opportunity to, like, they never attacked into it, and I honestly usually kept it on defense. I never I wanted to be using up all my mana almost every turn between morph creatures and various Outlast activations. So I was never in a position where I wanted to bluff activating it, because then if they call me on it, I guess I trade with a bigger creature, but then I can't do anything else for the turn. So I don't know if he's that great, but I guess he's okay. I had the Tusk Guard Captain, which is the 2/3 for 3 that Kathleen talked about, with a cheap Outlast, only a single green, and creatures with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. I had the Longshot Squad, which Kathleen mentioned, which is a 3/3 for 4 that gives the creatures reach.
I think those cards are really good, even if you are not in Abzan.
I would agree.
And you know what? They're decent enough that run them if you can and put a counter on them if it comes up.
I had a Abzan Guide. This is the Abzan version of that
that
common cycle we were talking about. 3 white, black, green for a 4/4 with lifelink. And you can play it as a face-down creature and flip it up for 2 white, black, green, which is very good when you're like, I attack with this. Surprise, it's a 4/4, and I gain 4 life. Curiously, across all 6 packs, I only had 3 gold cards in my whole pool.
You know what my secret to playing around those were? Because that's a freaking blowout if they can unmorph it. No, poke early with cards that you may or may not care about. And if they're leaving their morph creatures, if they refuse to block with a morph creature, bolt it as soon as you can. Because it's usually something good.
So did you guys talk about the morph thing during the last podcast? Like the morph costs, the sort of rule of thumb?
No.
Okay, so this is really interesting. The limited information column that Marshall writes for the Wizards website mentioned this, and this is really super important, I think, because last time when morph was around, it was this hellscape of combat math of being like, I attack with my morph, I block with my morph. Who's going to live through this? Who knows? So the way they've done it now is 5 mana is the key number for turning up a really scary creature with morph. If your opponent has 4 or less mana available to them, their morph will, at worst, trade with a 2/2. They might be able to turn up something that is like an 0/5 or a 1/5.
And it may still have a very relevant effect.
Yeah, but like when they turn it up, it may not die to a 2/2, but it won't also kill a 2/2. There's a 1/1 with death touch, but that's a trade. There's like a 5 power one, but it has 2 toughness. If it costs 4 mana or less to flip up, it will trade with a 2/2, or it won't kill the 2/2 and itself will not die. If it's 5 or higher, all bets are off. But that's really relevant when you're like, okay, he's attacking with this, but he's only got 3 mana up. Okay, I block. Right? because you know it can't be that scary a flip.
The thing is, I found, at least in the pre-release, people were it was easy for me to figure out which the morphs that were probably relevant were, because they were the ones that people wouldn't attack with and they wouldn't block with.
Also, a lot of people don't know that rule of thumb, so pro tip.
Yeah, but like seriously, like I know I was fighting a guy who was playing Abzan. I fought a lot of Abzan players, and
Abzan was very popular.
He had 2 morphs, and one he swung in with, the other one he left back because I had a 2/2, and so I was like, fine, and let it through the first time, and the second time, so passed it back to me. I swung in with my 2/2. He traded. It was that 5/2 morph, which I don't know if is that good. And then I bolted the other one, and it was Abzan Guide.
There you go.
So don't telegraph how good your morph is by playing delicately with it, because people who are observant will notice that, and then they will get you.
Truth.
Swing with it. What's the worst that happens? You lose a 2/2.
The rest of my creatures, the Disowned Ancestor, which is a 0/4 for a single black with Outlast of 1 and a black. He's also a warrior. This is going to become relevant later. The Alabaster Kieran, which is a 2/3 for 4 mana with Flying and Vigilance.
That seems really good.
He's just really good.
Yeah,
seems super.
There's a couple cards that you can get counters on other creatures. If you can get counters on this guy, he's great. Otherwise, he's still just really good. Just ping in every turn, still having to block.
Well, and the 3 is so relevant. I say again.
Sultai Scavenger. This is the one James was talking about. The 3/3 flyer for 6 mana, but with Delve. I think this guy's good, Cam. You were sort of questioning it, but I mean, you can get a 3/3 flyer for a 3/3 flyer for 4 is great in limited, and that's pretty easy. And if you can get him for 3, then you're laughing. So,
fair enough.
Speaking of great Delve creatures, Hooting Mandrills. This card is really good.
I would have loved to have one of those.
4/4 trample for 6, which is already like you'd almost play that. You'd be like, yeah, I'd probably play that, but he's got Delve. They have Delve. There's at least 3 of them on the card. Being able to turn 4 these guys or something, it was a big game. Speaking of a big game, the Woolly Loxodon is a 6/7.
Oh, that guy was
7.
hard to deal with.
But he has Morph, and you can flip him up for 6 mana. And more than once, I was like, all right, attack with this guy and this Morph. And they're like, all right, no blocks, I take 6. And it's like, you actually take 10. Flip him up. His 6/7 is really hard to deal with. And,
well, I mean, you can't burn away that.
And we talked about these guys earlier, the High Sentinels of Ereshkigal. These guys are really good. Yeah. The bird guys are really, really strong. And then the rest of my deck was mostly removal-ish type spells. So Rite of the Serpent, 4 black sorcery, destroy target creature. We've seen this recently in Theros block with Sip of Hemlock and with Spiteful Blow. And the Sip of Hemlock had also you lose 2 life. Spiteful Blow, you got to hit a land. This one has a much less exciting bonus, which is if that creature had a +1/+1 counter on it, you get a 1/1 green snake.
Woo.
Which is like, it's not that big of a deal, but it's 6 mana, you're just going to kill a thing, so I ran it.
Can you imagine if Spiteful Blow was in this format?
Oh god, that'd be awful.
That'd be a fucking bomb.
So I actually did board this out for cheaper removal depending on 1 or 2 matchups that I didn't think the game would go that long or I'd be able to get double black. Smite the Monstrous. Can we talk about how much I love Smite the Monstrous?
It's really good in this format.
Smite the Monstrous. Smite the Monstrous is very, very good here because the creatures you're going to have the most trouble with, I think, are the big ones. And
there's a lot of big ones.
I was able to get my opponent once with this. They were casting, what's that bounce card called, Cam?
Force Away.
Force Away, which is 1 and a blue to bounce a creature. But if you have Ferocious, you also get to loot. But that checks on resolution of the spell. So they were like, Force Away your thing. And I'm like, I'm going to smite your 4/4 bear so you at least don't get to loot.
Right.
And they were like, oh, okay, that sucks. And yeah, I think my best story for this one is last round I lost a game to a deck that had to another Abzan deck that had Anafenza, who's a 4/4 for 3. Lost the first game. Game 2, I boarded in my second Smite the Monstrous, had it in my opening hand, and my opponent, as he puts it, casually turn 3 Mythic casts Anafenza on turn 3, and passes the turn back, and I go, land, smite the monstrous. And then
womp womp.
Then we were able to have a normal game of Magic.
Right.
He played that spell, I killed it, and then it was normal from there on out. I had currently I had 2 of those in my deck because I had boarded a second one in, and I don't actually think running 2 of them is necessarily a bad idea. I had a 2 green combat trick combat trick as removal spells. I had Awaken the Bear, which we mentioned earlier. Dragon Scale Boon. Did you guys get blown out by this today?
No, actually, I didn't see that one.
All right.
I every time that came out, I had an answer to it.
Oh, okay. I've seen this card do some serious blowout work. It's 3 and a green for an instant. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature and untap it. And so that's when you're like, okay, you're tapped out, I attack with this. And they go, whoop. This is really good with Singing Bell Strike, too. You're like, oh, I pay 4 and untap it. Also, it's bigger and it eats your guy. Definitely relevant there. Can easily give something ferocious. I had Suspension Field, which James mentioned, the Journey to Nowhere that hits things with toughness 3 or greater.
Yeah, I saw a lot of those.
Yeah, and this is the annoying thing, is I got my stuff hit with Suspension Field fairly frequently, but it was never enough for me to board in Erase.
No.
Like, I only had Erase. I didn't have a Naturalize, which I might have brought in, but it's a single white mana for an instant exile target enchantment. And it's like, if they only have the one Suspension Field, that's not worth bringing in Erase, which is really annoying.
No, I don't think Erase is good in this format.
To be fair, I basically never saw another target for it because the Ascendancies are rare, and the only other enchantment I saw often enough, like Singing Bell Strike maybe, but the only other one I saw often enough that was played against me was the -2/2, which would just kill something and go
Most
away.
people just use that as hard removal. I had a lot of morphs die to that.
I was also lucky enough to get a Murderous Cut, which did very good work. This was what was the sort of average mana cost of casting that? 3, I think.
Oh, that's good.
More than once I got it late game and just cast it for manufacturer suggested retail price of 5, and I was still real happy with a 5 mana instant destroy a creature.
Yeah, I don't know. I think my test on Delve, I think, is cards that I would be happy paying retail for. Right.
But sometimes I was like, exile 4 cards from my library, one black mana, kill you. It was very, very good. And then I want to tell you about this last card, the only card, I guess, that's not strictly removal in my deck, which is, James mentioned earlier, Rush of Battle. So it's a sorcery, which sucks, but it's 3 and a white. Creatures you control got +2/+1 until end of turn. Warrior creatures you control gain lifelink. The first card I mentioned was the Herald of Anafenza, which himself is a human soldier, but makes 1/1 warriors, which become 3/2 lifelink warriors with this thing. And the Mardu Skull Hunter is a warrior, and the Mardu Hateblade is a warrior. The Tuskguard Captain is a warrior. The Azban Guide is a warrior. The Disowned Ancestor, the 0/4, is a warrior.
I'm seeing a theme.
The Sultai Scavenger is a bird warrior. And just for the rub-ins, the Woolly Loxodon is an elephant warrior. So I had a game where I had the Herald of Anafenza and one other non-warrior creature, and then 3 Herald tokens and the Hateblade, and I was like, Rush of Battle swing, and my opponent went to 2, and I went back up to, I gained like 10 life and went up to 21. And they were not able to recover that game. And this is even after they took them to 2. They cast Icy Blast on my whole team with Ferocious, meaning that they tapped my whole team and they didn't untap on my next turn. So they got 2 free hits in on me, and I was still able to get there thanks to Rush of Battle. And then another one, it was just like randomly lethal you from 18.
So Rush of Battle saw you through a double time walk.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then another time it was just my opponent's at 18 and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Rush of Battle swing
for 18.
Jesus. Like, even if you block the biggest creature, it's 18. Yeah. So
Jeebus.
If you have enough warriors, or a creature that makes warriors, very, very good. So, and I ended up 4-1 on the day, which is I think the best I've done at a paper pre-release.
Overall, we as a group did very well. And even Cam is like meh, but Cam, you also did well. You went 2 and 3, right? Like you still won packs.
Well, yeah, I prized.
Right? Like that is
how
pretty decent. Can we talk about our sort of things that we learned from now playing this format?
I think we've gone over a lot of that as we've been talking, but I just wanted to say like I think this is sweet. Like
I'm impressed.
The 5 mechanics alone, I think, have enough like little interesting depth and corner cases that I think they'd be pretty cool. But the interaction between them across clans, because I'm Abzan. I'm only in Abzan colors, but I've got Outlast, I've got Delve, I've got Ferocious in here, and then combining all that with Morph, it's really interesting. I think it's a challenging limited environment, but a very fun limited environment.
Yeah. I would characterize this as being very complex, but very rewarding. Like, I'm looking forward to the day when I get to prowess into an active Ferocious trigger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What I like about this format is that, paying careful attention to what your opponent is doing will pay dividends for you, because there's a lot going on, and so it's easy for people to not make good plays or to misplay. And so, it sort of rewards the thoughtful player in taking your time. But what I like about this format is that it feels very like Magic. And like, this sounds really stupid, but the red creatures are like, they do Bernie stuff, and the green creatures are big, and the white creatures are flying and tricksy, and the black creatures are, and the black has a lot of removal.
Graveyard.
And the blue has like bounce and flying creatures, and it's really like, it feels like very, like, this is flavorful, but almost like sort of, and I mean this in a good way, like very much like, yes, despite the fact that this is super complicated, has morph and lots of mechanics, it's like, yeah, this is exactly what I think of when I think of Magic, right? Like, it's not completely like doing wacky stuff that is not, normal for like, it's very sort of like,
it's very
pure.
iconic.
It's like, iconically magical. Yeah.
Actually, how about this?
Okay.
If you have been romanticizing the good old days of Magic, back when you were playing in like the high school library or the cafeteria, pick up Cons. This is like that, only good.
And the removal is more expensive.
But the creatures are better.
Yeah. Also, mulligan aggressively.
Yes.
Mulligan aggressively. Mulligan into your colors. If you have a handful of cards you can't cast, it is a lot like you mulligan to 0.
If I can, I don't know, James, do you agree with all that?
Yep. Sounds all good to me.
If I can leave with one more dig at the creative team, it's a cool name for a card, but I don't think anyone who works on card names said River Wheel Aerialists out loud before they printed it. River Wheel Aerialists.
River Wheel Aerialists. It sounds like it's out of Twin Peaks. It sounds like you're saying it backwards.
It does.
River Wheel Aerialists.
It's so strange.
Good card, hard to say.
Yeah. So we hope you had fun at your pre-releases as much as we had fun at ours, and we look forward to much drafting of cons in the future. Upcoming episodes, just because some people have been asking, we had a bunch of requests. Well, a couple, to do some more stuff about Commander, so we definitely will talk about that. James and I should talk about the Community Cup at some point, and I do owe you. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll do it as like a bonus episode in addition to the weekly one. But I do owe you the real history origins of the mythical flavor of Journey into Nyx, which now sounds like way out of date. But I promised, and if I don't, at least I know that Marshall will be very upset with me. And his deck box and sleeves carried me to a 4-1 today, so I definitely want to knock that one out sometime soon. So
you're all going to want to pick up your Joseph Campbell, read up on Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Read up on the monomyth, if you could.
Yeah.
You don't have to read up on the monomyths.
You should read up on the monomyths.
All right. That's it.
Read up on your River Wheel Aerialist. Say that 5 times fast.
River Wheel Aerialist. River Wheel Aerialist. River Wheel Aerialist.
Your tongue trips over itself. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and happy cons.
Bye.
Bye.